Security! Get this man out of here! He has no business in a hotel like this.
12 years, and you're still a nobody. Leaving you was the best decision I ever made.
You came here to celebrate tonight, didn't you?
We're staying in the most expensive suite here, something you could never afford.
Stop!
Mr. Calloway, should I have them removed from your hotel?
The look on Vanessa's face when she heard the words, "your hotel," was almost impossible to describe. 12 years earlier, that same woman had stood in our tiny apartment, thrown her wedding ring onto the kitchen table, and told me I would never become the kind of man she could respect. Back then, I had $43 in my checking account, a failing business idea, and enough overdue bills to cover half the refrigerator door. Vanessa didn't just leave me. She left me convinced that maybe she was right about me. For months after our divorce, I would wake up at 3 in the morning remembering her final words. "Some men are born to succeed, Marcus. You aren't one of them. My name is Marcus Calloway." And for 12 years, I never saw my ex-wife again. Until the night she walked into the most successful hotel I had ever built and tried to have me thrown out of it. Before I tell you what happened next, answer this for me. If someone abandoned you at your lowest point, then returned years later and humiliated you without knowing how far you'd risen, would you forgive them, or would you let them face the consequences? Tell me in the comments, and subscribe to Favored Narrative, because what happened after Vanessa discovered the truth changed everything. 12 years earlier, I wasn't wealthy. I wasn't even comfortable. I was 30 years old and trying desperately to keep a small property maintenance company alive. I had 2 employees, an old pickup truck that sometimes needed 3 attempts to start, and a rented office so small that my desk almost touched the door. Vanessa hated it. When we married, I had promised her that I would build something meaningful. At first, she said she believed in me, but belief became impatience. Impatience became embarrassment. And eventually, embarrassment became contempt. Whenever one of her friends bought a new car, Vanessa reminded me that ours was 6 years old. Whenever someone posted vacation pictures, she asked why I couldn't afford to take her somewhere like that. Then she met Richard Hayes. Richard was everything I wasn't at the time. Expensive suits, luxury cars, exclusive restaurants. He worked in commercial finance, and Vanessa couldn't stop talking about him. At first, I ignored it. Then one evening, I came home early and found 2 wine glasses on our coffee table. Richard was sitting on my couch. Vanessa didn't even look ashamed. She simply folded her arms and said, "We need to talk." 3 weeks later, our marriage was over. Richard waited for her outside the courthouse in a black Mercedes. Before Vanessa climbed into his car, she turned to me. "Don't hate me for wanting more, Marcus." I stared at her. "I don't hate you." She smiled. "You will when you see the life I'm going to have." Then she left. What Vanessa never understood was that losing her removed the one thing I had been spending most of my energy trying to satisfy. For the first time, I had nothing left to prove to anyone except myself. I sold almost everything I didn't need. I moved into the back room of my tiny office. For 18 months, I slept on a folding bed. I worked maintenance jobs during the day and studied commercial property at night. And then I noticed something. A neglected 12-room roadside and outside the city had gone into foreclosure. Everyone saw a dying motel. I saw my first opportunity. I borrowed what I could, convinced 2 investors to trust me with the rest, and bought it. I repaired rooms myself. I painted walls. I replaced broken fixtures. I even cleaned bathrooms when employees didn't show up. Within 2 years, that dying property was profitable. I sold it. Then I bought another. Then 2 more. By year 7, I wasn't repairing other people's properties anymore. I was acquiring them. By year 10, Calloway Hospitality owned luxury properties in 4 states. But there was one project I wanted more than all the others. The Beaumont Grand. The hotel Vanessa was now standing inside. It had once been one of America's most celebrated luxury hotels, but years of poor management had damaged its reputation. When the opportunity came to acquire it, my board thought I was taking an unnecessary risk. I bought it anyway. We spent 2 years rebuilding it. New suites, new restaurants, new staff, new standards. When it reopened, reservations exploded. Within 18 months, the Beaumont Grand was ranked among the country's most prestigious luxury hotels. And despite all of that, I rarely appeared publicly as its owner. My executives handled interviews. My general manager ran daily operations. Most guests had no idea what Marcus Calloway looked like. Apparently, neither did Vanessa. That night, I had arrived unexpectedly to inspect preparations for an important charity event. I wasn't wearing a tuxedo. I wasn't surrounded by assistants. I simply walked through my own lobby. Then I heard a familiar voice. Marcus. I turned. And there she was. Vanessa. 12 years had changed her, but not enough that I wouldn't recognize her. Beside her stood Richard, the same man who had waited outside the courthouse. For 1 second, none of us spoke. Then Vanessa looked me up and down, and smiled. Not warmly. That old smile. The one that always made me feel as if I had disappointed her simply by existing. She assumed I was there pretending to belong among wealthy guests. And within minutes, the confrontation you just watched began. Now the hotel manager stood beside me. Vanessa's mouth was open. Richard looked like someone had drained the blood from his face. Your hotel? Vanessa finally whispered. The manager looked confused. Yes, ma'am. Mr. Calloway is the owner of the Beaumont Grand. Vanessa stared at me, then at the chandelier, then the reception desk, then back at me. But you... She couldn't finish. Richard recovered first. He straightened his jacket and forced a laugh. Well, that's impressive, Marcus. Obviously, there has been a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding. 12 years earlier, he had taken my wife to celebrate our divorce. 5 minutes earlier, he'd stood beside her while she tried to have me removed. Now it was a misunderstanding. I looked at my manager. It's fine, Stephen. Vanessa visibly relaxed. She thought I was rescuing her. I wasn't. Don't remove them. Richard smiled. Exactly. We're all adults here. I continued. But cancel the presidential suite. His smile disappeared. Vanessa blinked. What? I looked toward Stephen. Give it to the Morrison family downstairs. Their reservation was mishandled this afternoon. Upgrade them at no charge. Stephen nodded. Of course, sir. Vanessa stepped forward. Marcus, we paid for that suite. And you'll receive a full refund. You can't just cancel our reservation. I looked around the lobby. A few minutes earlier, she'd asked security to throw me out because she believed I didn't belong. Now she was shouting at me because I wouldn't allow her to stay. I lowered my voice. Vanessa, you're right about one thing. She stopped. 12 years changed me. Her expression softened slightly. But apparently they didn't change you. Silence. Richard stepped between us. Watch how you speak to her. I almost laughed. Even after learning whose building he was standing in, he still thought intimidation would save him. Then Stephen quietly approached me. Mr. Calloway, there's something you should know. He handed me a tablet. Richard's expression changed immediately. That interested me. What is it? Stephen lowered his voice. Mr. Hayes booked the suite through a corporate hospitality account. Richard interrupted. That's none of your concern. Stephen continued. The company called earlier today. They're disputing several charges connected to his account. Vanessa slowly turned toward Richard. What charges? Vanessa, ignore him. But Stephen was already showing me the screen. Richard had been using his employer's corporate account for personal luxury expenses. Not just tonight. There were months of questionable bookings. I handed the tablet back. That's between him and his company. Richard exhaled. Then I added. But nothing else gets charged to that account in this hotel. Vanessa stared at him. You told me you paid for this trip yourself. Richard's face tightened. I did. Stephen shook his head. No, sir. That was when the humiliation stopped being about me. Vanessa's attention moved entirely to Richard. How much of our lifestyle is actually yours? Not here. Answer me. Guests were staring again. Richard grabbed her arm lightly, trying to move her away. She pulled free. The apartment? He said nothing. The car? Silence. Vanessa's face changed. For the first time that night, I wasn't looking at the woman who had mocked me. I was looking at someone watching her own illusion collapse. And strangely, I didn't enjoy it. For years, I had imagined meeting Vanessa again. In some versions, she'd see my success and regret leaving. In others, I'd finally say everything I had swallowed during our marriage. But standing there, I realized something. I didn't need her regret anymore. My life had stopped being about proving her wrong years ago. Stephen, I said, make sure Ms. Bennett has transportation wherever she needs to go. Vanessa looked at me. You do that for me? This isn't for you. She frowned. Then why? Because I remember what it feels like to stand somewhere and realize the life you trusted isn't what you thought it was. Her eyes dropped. Richard scoffed. Don't act like you're better than us. I looked at him. I don't need to. That silenced him. Stephen signaled discreetly toward security. Richard looked around and finally understood there was nothing left for him to control. He walked toward the entrance alone. Vanessa didn't follow. Instead, she stood there staring at me. I was wrong about you, she said quietly. 12 years earlier, those words would have meant everything. That night, they meant almost nothing. You were wrong about what makes a person valuable, I said. There's a difference. Her eyes filled with embarrassment. Do you hate me? I thought about it. No. She looked surprised. Hating you would have meant carrying you with me for 12 years. I had too much work to do. For the first time all evening, Vanessa had nothing to say. I wished her well and walked away. 6 months later, I heard that Richard had lost his position after an internal investigation. I never asked for details. Vanessa sent me one email. No excuses. No request for money. Just an apology. I didn't answer immediately. A week later, I wrote 2 words. I forgive you. Not because she deserved access to my life again. She didn't. Forgiveness and reconciliation are not the same thing. I forgave her because I finally understood that the greatest victory wasn't owning the hotel where she had humiliated me. It wasn't watching her discover that the man she called a nobody had become successful. The victory happened years earlier, when I stopped allowing someone else's opinion to decide what I believed about myself. That hotel could burn down tomorrow. The money could disappear. The awards could gather dust. None of those things created my worth. They were simply evidence of what became possible after I stopped surrendering it. So if someone has ever looked at where you are today and decided that's all you'll ever become, remember this. They are looking at a moment. They are not looking at your ending. And sometimes the person laughing at you in the lobby has no idea whose name is on the building. Now I want to hear from you. Did Marcus handle Vanessa the right way? Or should he have thrown both of them out immediately? Tell me what you would have done in the comments. And if you believe the strongest comeback is becoming someone you no longer need to defend, subscribe to Favorite Narrative for more powerful stories like this.